The early 14th century marked a period of significant transformation for the Ottoman Empire. Following Orhan I's consolidation of power, the empire's territorial ambitions began to shift westward, leading to the eventual expansion into the Balkans and the establishment of Ottoman footholds in Europe. This expansion was not only a military conquest, but also a strategic move that would lay the foundation for the empire's long-lasting presence in Europe. The success of this expansion was influenced by a combination of military strategy, political alliances, and the empire's ability to integrate diverse cultures under one rule. The Ottoman entry into the Balkans began in the 1320s under Orhan I, who recognized the importance of securing territories to the west. The Balkans, a region rich in resources and strategic locations, presented an ideal opportunity for the Ottomans to expand their influence. However, the process was not immediate, as the Ottomans faced resistance from powerful regional forces, including the Byzantine Empire and various Balkan states. The first major Ottoman success came with the capture of Gallipoli in 1354. Located on the Gallipoli Peninsula, this fortuitous victory provided the Ottomans with a crucial base from which they could launch further operations into Europe. Gallipoli was not only strategically significant because of its location along the Dardanelles Strait, which provided access to the Aegean Sea, but it also marked the first permanent Ottoman foothold in Europe. From here, Orhan I and his successors could establish further control over the surrounding areas, including key cities and trade routes. The capture of Gallipoli had significant implications for the future of the empire. It gave the Ottomans a foothold in Europe that they would use as a launching point for further military campaigns in the Balkans. The expansion of Ottoman control over Gallipoli was a clear signal to the surrounding European powers that the Ottomans were a rising force. The capture also allowed the Ottomans to begin establishing their governance structures, including military outposts and administrative centers, which would later serve as the backbone for the empire's European operations. After Gallipoli, the Ottomans began to expand further into the Balkans, particularly targeting territories held by the Byzantine Empire and various regional states, such as the Serbian Kingdom and the Principality of Bulgaria. The fall of these territories was facilitated by the weakening of local powers, internal instability, and the decline of Byzantine influence in the region. As these states struggled with political fragmentation and external threats, the Ottomans were able to take advantage of these vulnerabilities. One of the key aspects of Ottoman expansion was their use of both military force and diplomatic strategies. While the Ottoman army, particularly the elite Janissary corps, was instrumental in capturing new territories, the Ottomans also sought alliances with local rulers and tribes to secure their influence. The empire's ability to offer military protection, religious tolerance, and autonomy to local leaders often led to peaceful integration rather than outright conquest. This pragmatic approach allowed the Ottomans to expand their reach while minimizing resistance from local populations. As Ottoman territory expanded, they were careful to establish a presence in key cities and trade routes across the Balkans. In Thrace, the Ottomans took control of major trade hubs, such as Adrianople, which became an important Ottoman city and served as a second capital before the conquest of Constantinople in 1453. The city's capture was vital to the Ottomans as it provided them with a foothold in the heart of the Balkans, facilitating further expansion into neighboring territories. Another significant aspect of the Ottoman expansion was the Islamization of the Balkans. While initially the Ottomans allowed religious autonomy to their Christian subjects, the spread of Islam in the region became increasingly important as the empire expanded. The millet system, which allowed religious communities to govern themselves, was implemented, offering Muslims, Christians, and Jews a certain degree of autonomy. Over time, however, Muslim rule became more dominant, especially as Turkish settlers and Sufi orders began to establish themselves in the region. The Ottomans also built mosques, madrasas, and other Islamic institutions that helped to further integrate Ottoman culture and religion into the region. The expansion into the Balkans marked the beginning of centuries of Ottoman influence in Europe. By the late 14th century, the Ottomans had established themselves as a major power in southeastern Europe. The capture of Serbia in 1389 and later Bosnia solidified Ottoman control over much of the Western Balkans. The Ottomans not only conquered territory but also established a political system that blended military, religious, and administrative structures. This system of governance allowed the Ottomans to control a vast and diverse region for centuries. In conclusion, the Ottoman expansion into the Balkans and the establishment of footholds in Europe were pivotal moments in the history of the empire. These early campaigns laid the foundation for a lasting Ottoman presence in Europe, marked by a combination of military conquest, strategic alliances, and religious and cultural integration. The Ottomans' ability to navigate the complex political and social landscapes of the Balkans helped them to create a powerful empire that would influence the region for centuries to come. Following the capture of Gallipoli in 1354, the Ottoman Empire's foothold in Europe was solidified, but it was only the beginning of an ambitious expansion into the Balkans. Orhan I and his successors knew that for the Ottomans to thrive and grow, they had to extend their control over more territories in southeastern Europe. The Balkans, with their strategic location and diverse political landscape, became the perfect territory for the Ottomans to expand. The fall of the Byzantine Empire, along with the fragmentation of regional powers, offered the Ottomans an opportunity to build a dominant presence in the region. One of the first significant expansions after Gallipoli came with the conquest of Adrianople in 1361. This city, located in the heart of the Balkans, was a vital trade and military center, making it an ideal strategic prize for the Ottomans. The capture of Adrianople marked the Ottomans' first substantial victory over a major Christian kingdom in the region, and it served as an important administrative and military base. Orhan I's successor, Murad I, would further solidify Ottoman rule over the region by establishing Adrianople as the second Ottoman capital, further pushing the empire's influence in Europe. By securing Adrianople, the Ottomans ensured control over the key trade routes between Asia and Europe, making their empire an essential power in the region. The city became the hub of Ottoman governance in the Balkans and helped serve as a launch point for further campaigns into the surrounding territories. The acquisition of Adrianople also marked the beginning of a more aggressive Ottoman approach to expansion in the Balkans, with the Ottomans now focused on securing territories from the weakened Byzantine Empire as well as from the independent Christian kingdoms of the region. Murad I's military campaigns throughout the 14th century, particularly in Serbia and Bulgaria, further solidified the Ottoman Empire's hold on the Balkans. The Battle of Kosovo in 1389, fought between the Ottomans and a coalition of Serb and Albanian forces led by Prince Lazar Rebelljanović, is one of the most famous battles of the period. Though the battle ended in a stalemate, it was a turning point in Ottoman expansion. The victory effectively marked the decline of the Serbian kingdom and cemented the Ottomans as the dominant force in the Balkans. It was the first of many significant victories in the Balkans that would pave the way for the Ottoman Empire's continued expansion into Europe. The Ottomans' diplomatic strategies were as critical as their military successes in expanding their influence. By employing the millet system, the Ottomans were able to manage the religious diversity of the Balkans effectively. The system allowed religious communities, particularly Christians and Jews, to govern themselves in personal matters, such as marriage, inheritance, and religious practices. In return, these communities paid taxes to the Ottomans and pledged loyalty to the empire. This policy of religious autonomy helped the Ottomans to maintain peace in their diverse empire and allowed them to integrate the Balkan Christian populations with minimal resistance. However, not all interactions with local populations were peaceful. The Ottoman forced conscription system, known as the dev-shurm, played a significant role in the empire's expansion. Under this system, Christian boys from the Balkans were taken from their families, converted to Islam, and trained to serve as elite soldiers in the Janissary Corps. While the dev-shurm system was a source of resentment for many local communities, it allowed the Ottomans to build a powerful military force that was loyal directly to the Sultan. The Janissaries were critical in the success of Ottoman military campaigns as they helped the empire maintain control over its expanding territories. In addition to military conquests and strategic alliances, the Ottomans were also adept at exploiting internal divisions within the Christian kingdoms of the Balkans. The region was riddled with political fragmentation, and many local rulers were willing to make deals with the Ottomans to secure their power. This allowed the Ottomans to expand their territories with relatively little resistance from local powers. In some cases, Christian rulers even sought Ottoman assistance to deal with rivals, effectively aligning themselves with the Ottomans in exchange for support. The Ottoman expansion into the Balkans was not only about military conquest, but also about cultural integration. The Ottomans encouraged the establishment of mosques, madrasas, and other Islamic institutions in the regions they conquered. These institutions helped to spread Islamic culture, law, and education, and they played an essential role in integrating the local population into the Ottoman system. Over time, the Balkans saw a gradual Islamization of its population, especially in areas where Ottoman influence was the strongest. The establishment of Ottoman footholds in the Balkans also had long-term consequences for the empire. By the late 14th century, the Ottomans had effectively secured their dominance in southeastern Europe, and their expansion into the Balkans would serve as a springboard for further territorial gains, including the eventual conquest of Constantinople in 1453. The Ottoman presence in Europe continued to grow, and by the 16th century, the empire would reach its peak, controlling much of southeastern Europe, parts of Central Europe, and the Middle East. In conclusion, the Ottoman Empire's expansion into the Balkans and the creation of footholds in Europe marked a significant turning point in world history. Through a combination of military conquest, strategic alliances, and diplomatic integration, the Ottomans were able to establish a lasting presence in Europe. Their ability to manage diverse religious and cultural communities under the millet system, along with their effective military and administrative strategies, allowed the Ottomans to control vast territories and remain a powerful force in Europe for centuries. By the beginning of the 15th century, the Ottoman Empire had firmly established itself as a major power in southeastern Europe. The Balkans, once a region dominated by Christian kingdoms and the Byzantine Empire, were now increasingly under Ottoman control. With this expansion came the consolidation of Ottoman authority over vast territories and the integration of diverse peoples and cultures into the empire. However, as the Ottomans pushed deeper into Europe, they faced both internal challenges and external threats that would shape the empire's future. One of the key factors in the Ottomans' ability to maintain control over the Balkans was their ability to implement a strong centralized administrative system. As the empire expanded, the Ottomans established provincial governors, known as beys, who were responsible for overseeing local administration, collecting taxes, and maintaining law and order. These governors were directly accountable to the Sultan, ensuring that central authority was maintained throughout the empire. This system allowed the Ottomans to keep tight control over the diverse territories of the Balkans, even as the region's Christian populations remained a majority. The Ottomans also relied on the millet system, which granted religious autonomy to the empire's Christian and Jewish communities. The system allowed local religious leaders to administer justice in personal matters such as marriage, inheritance, and religious practices. In return, these religious communities paid taxes and pledged allegiance to the Sultan. The millet system was a key factor in maintaining peace and stability in the Balkans, as it allowed the Ottomans to respect the religious diversity of the region while ensuring political and military unity. However, the Ottomans were not without their challenges. As their territory grew, they faced increasing pressure from the Catholic powers of Europe, particularly the Kingdom of Hungary and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, who sought to curb Ottoman influence in the region. These Christian kingdoms, along with the remnants of the Byzantine Empire, formed alliances to resist the Ottomans' expansion into Europe. Despite these challenges, the Ottomans were able to maintain a dominant position in the Balkans, largely due to their superior military force, the formidable Janissaries, and their diplomatic skill. The Battle of Kosovo in 1389, though it ended in a stalemate, was a crucial moment in the Ottoman campaign in the Balkans. The Ottomans, under Murad I, faced a coalition of Christian forces led by Prince Lazar Rebelljanović of Serbia. Although neither side claimed an outright victory, the battle effectively weakened the Serbian state and solidified Ottoman control over the region. In the aftermath of the battle, the Ottomans increased their presence in the Balkans, and Serbia, though it retained some autonomy, became a vassal state of the Ottomans. The Ottoman naval fleet, which had gained strength following the capture of Gallipoli, played a key role in the empire's ability to control the Mediterranean and the Aegean Sea. The Ottomans used their navy to secure important trade routes and protect their expanding empire from external threats. The capture of important coastal cities, including Salonika in 1430, helped to consolidate Ottoman power in the Aegean region and further isolate the remaining Christian kingdoms. By the mid-5th century, the Ottomans had not only solidified their control over much of the Balkans, but had also made inroads into Central Europe. With the conquest of Constantinople in 1453, the Ottomans marked the end of the Byzantine Empire and the beginning of a new chapter in European history. The fall of Constantinople opened the gates for further Ottoman expansion into the heart of Europe, eventually reaching the gates of Vienna in the late 16th century. The Ottomans' presence in Europe would remain a dominant force for centuries, influencing the political, religious, and cultural landscape of the region. In conclusion, the expansion of the Ottoman Empire into the Balkans and the establishment of footholds in Europe marked a transformative period in world history. The Ottomans' military victories, strategic alliances, and diplomatic savvy allowed them to create an empire that spanned continents and endured for over 6 centuries. The legacy of Ottoman rule in the Balkans and Europe can still be seen today in the cultural diversity and historical landmarks that remain throughout the region.